Hola Hugo, buen día.
Hola, Jimena, ¿qué tal estás? Hello.
How are you today?
Doing okay, thank you very much. A little bit still uh, shocked with all this situation happening over here, but we are
Sure.
trying our best to adapt, support friends. We have a lot of friends in these places, and so it's a little bit sad to see that this is where it is, but trying to keep things running and going and keep optimistic. We're just coming out of a pandemic, right?
Right. No, absolutely. We're seeing a lot more tourism from Brazil and also from inside of Argentina, Chile. So at least it feels better to be outside, to share, and to receive people here who are tasting wines and celebrating this harvest with us.
I agree. I agree, and we all need it after such a long time with this, lockdowns and distances that we in the end we created distances between people. And in your industry, in our industry, is to celebrate life and togetherness and to support that good spirit. And we've been basically prevented from doing that for quite a while. So it's I hope we can really come back in full.
So focusing now on corks, we're seeing that a lot more people are choosing these, and they are seeing. I think there's a lot of knowledge lacking in a way. I'm finding out a lot about this cork industry, and I'm fascinated by it. What can you tell us in these terms of trends regarding the cork?
Whoa. Well, that's a very, very comprehensive question, and I'm not sure how much time we will have, but I will try to do a kind of a contextualization of the whole of the conversation so that we can then see what is more interesting for the community to hear about. So, more and more, I think, it's been an underlying trend, sustainability already for over a decade in our daily lives. So we've been hearing quite a lot about sustainability, and people are wondering what can they do to become more sustainable. Then other NGOs helped us, like the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade Association. So there's been quite a lot of different organisms and NGOs that have been helping people to shape the way in which they would like to be, let's say, reconforted or to be reassured. This is the right word, about the way that people are making products and putting them in front of them. Okay, so I think this is it's part of a major trend. I think that over the last couple of years with the pandemic, this trend has accelerated tremendously because people became much more aware and knowledgeable about everything related to the product and to the way the product makes until it's before them, in front of their homes, in front of their houses, in front of their tables. And people would want to understand better the way that products are done. So whether that is a wine or a spirits drink, and to understand how does it travel and how does it get to their hands. I think the pandemic made sustainability become an integral part of the premiumization trend that the spirits are living. So premiumization has been the key trend over the last over a decade and a half already globally. The phenomenon is that people are drinking less, but they are drinking better. And they're drinking more local as well. This is the reason why you've seen a big growth on the craft sector in spirits globally. It's been booming. It started in the United States, but then it came across the ocean through Europe, through the UK, and then entered continental Europe in places like Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Holland, so Netherlands. Everyone is now into this trend, and you can find it, in South America, in Asia, in Japan. So people indeed are looking to have better products with better credentials, with better quality, with an experience behind the product. It's not only anymore about the product itself and the consumption of the product. It's all about the feeling and the overall relation you are able to create with the product. And hence, consumers are more demanding towards that. Producers are very sensitive to this as well. They've understood that it's necessary to communicate with the consumer, obviously through the product, the story behind the product, but also with the packaging itself. Because when you are buying an expensive bottle of spirits, you expect that you have in front of you a moment of storytelling, a moment of experience, a moment of understanding who's the master distiller behind it, to read more about the way the product is done, the product is shipped, is produced. And I think that, the premium packaging has a huge role. I've read different studies throughout my professional life, and I've read one very interesting saying that the time it takes for a person on a duty-free shop buying a bottle of spirits between the moment it looks for it and buys it is something like 20 seconds. So you decide very quickly what you would like to buy between an array of options. And obviously, if you know the product and the brand, you're familiar with that, and we're talking about brand loyalty. If you're not as familiar, you will obviously also buy according to what the product shows, and the product shows through the packaging. So I think that we, as suppliers of packaging, the community that is doing, bottles, labels, corks, sleeves, everything, we need to be much more attentive to these trends and to be able to develop solutions that can address the concerns of the different consumers from different communities that are worried with all of that key underlying message on the products.
Absolutely. I was just wondering if women are actually involved in those 20 seconds. I can't see myself choosing something in 20 seconds, but yes, I'm sure it's true. I'm sure there's a lot in the packaging that makes you take that decision. Because
I think you'd be surprised how I think they are.
I think in a way, if you don't know the product, you expect the packaging to tell you what's inside that bottle. So.
All right. So I'll then focus a little bit into the sustainability part, but related to cork. So we were talking about the fact that that sustainability is part of the expected premiumization for consumers. So people want to relate with products that are much more natural, with a natural relation and connection to them. So I think that, if you look at what you can extract from nature and is recycled and recyclable, glass is a great example of that. And you cannot think, when you look at a closure, of something that is more sustainable than cork as a material. Why? Because it comes from a forest that exists to supply the bark. So let's say the tree has the ability to renew its own bark that is then transformed into closures. So we don't fell trees, so they are not cut. The trees live up to 200, 220 years on average, and every 9 years they humbly allow you to extract the cork from there, which you then transform into many different products. So obviously, the major usage is the one I have behind me, so a closure for a bottle. That is the very last piece of nature in contact with your drink before you drink it. So naively, nature gave us something that is irreplaceable through a synthetic material, at least in this so complex way. And that not only closes and seals the bottle and prevents the liquid from being spilled and oxygen from getting inside the bottle, and protects the drink from any volatile contamination that can come from the outside, but it also shows the consumer that indeed the packaging is a natural packaging, and immediately you associate it with premium product, immediately. So it has nothing to do with using an aluminum or a plastic material that you can just screw on or screw off. You will associate that to a cheaper product, and obviously not only by the fact that it is cheaper, but also one cannot forget that of all of the amount of energy that is required to get any of those. So while nature is growing this wonderful material, at the same time is absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. For each ton of cork products produced, there is 70 tons of CO2 that are sequestered from the atmosphere. So imagine that not only it does not require any energy, but it also absorbs CO2. So on top of all of that, there is the social dimension. There is about 100,000 people working across the Mediterranean basin in these forests, in over 2 million hectares of forest, maintaining the forest, extracting cork. This is all done by hand. Which is something completely crazy in the 21st century, that you still have an operation like this entirely made by hand, but it's the only way to protect the tree and to have the right, let's say, productivity out of the material that you take. So in order to waste as less as you can. because it is something that you need to cherish and valuable. And
Absolutely.
It's actually the best paid agricultural job in the world.
That's right. I was just about to interrupt you. And I was going to say, it's not only the environmental impact it has. I read that, and this is something new to me, to be honest. I had no idea. But it's one of the best paid agricultural jobs in the world. And many times an aspect that is overlooked. When people talk about sustainability, which is a trend right now, the first focus goes to the environment.
Now, environmentally speaking, obviously, we spoke about the role as a carbon sink, but not don't forget that the Cork Oak Forest is regarded by the WWF as one of the 30 hotspots for biodiversity in the globe. In each hectare of forest, you have 105 different plant and animal species that live in this forest. Some of them are endangered, and the fact that these forests are there create, a habitat for these species. The forests themselves, they are a great barrier against desertification because the trees are deeply rooted into the soil. They're able to keep huge amounts of water underground, and so obviously creating the conditions for wildlife to live there. And if you add to that the fact that you have communities that work extracting cork, transforming cork into different materials, shipping it, transporting it, delivering it. So there is this ecosystem of on the one hand, the environmental dimension, the social dimension, and on top of that, the added value dimension as well. Because in the end, by transforming it into so many applications, we are adding value to a natural raw material, technology, and putting it in some of the world's most demanding industries, like the aerospace industry, or like some of the world's most expensive spirits and wines. So if you have the ability to do this, I mean, you cannot think of a more perfect equation than this in terms of sustainability.
I see so many news about how they are reusing this, and they are creating soles for sneakers with cork. Mm-hmm. It's an everyday material that we need, and that mostly it's used from petroleum. So the fact that you can replace it with something natural and has a lesser impact on people, the environment, everything, it's the best I can think of.
And the story is just halfway through, because as you've said a while back, so we manufacture the closures. With the byproducts of that, we manufacture soles, insulation for airplanes, space shuttles, for clothes, garments, everything. And in the end, what is left after manufacturing all of that is dust, and we burn it to produce energy. So as a matter of fact, 65% of our energy needs are fulfilled by that. So it's a 100% used resource, zero waste. So when you talk about sustainability, recyclability, circular economy, it's something that it's, in this industry's DNA over a century already.
Thank you so much, Hugo. This has been super interesting. I hope we find many more opportunities to go deeper on other aspects, but really, I want to thank you for your time here.
Not at all. My pleasure. And any time or any more topics that you'd like to discuss, we can always have a novel with different chapters every month. No problem.
I'll start writing it right now.